Okay, guys, I'll start by saying there's a football game tomorrow night. That's right.
I said
Right,
Friday like
there
it's
we
in the
go.
future. I forgot it's Thursday.
Yeah, there's a football game tomorrow night here. That's very exciting. Okay, I had a number of calls this week, and I'm glad the callers wear themselves out on me because I like abuse. And then I'm glad that we get all that frustration out, and then when it comes time to stand up at the microphone, that if there's a parent somewhere out there that is not happy with the school that they go to, if I'm a parent, the first thing I do is watch a school board meeting. And when I see teachers coming up and expressing their concerns in a way that's logistical to me, because I think in numbers, I'm going to give you an example of that in a minute. But thank you for calling me. Now, as I tell everyone, anyone who sits up here on the board and thinks that they run the district and they tell him what to do, and that I make decisions about buying buses and I tell Hassan what to do is sadly mistaken. That's not the way it works. Staff brings policy to us. There's a narrow lane. Most of what we do is controlled by California law. 80%, 90% of what we do every year is calendared, and we just make decisions. And the stuff that does come to us, sometimes we don't really want those things. But here's a couple of things I want to say. There's a mass exodus of kids coming to the school district. That means for every full room we have in this district, there's an empty room somewhere else. That concerns me, especially if that affects student choice in this district. I'm going to be very politically correct about that, but I think everybody knows what we're saying. I'm going to be very careful here. During the interview of potential superintendent candidates, it was very clear that there is no subsidy cheese line new thing to round up money from some kid in San Bernardino. That's not what we do, and that collapsed. I said it would. The courts made it collapse, and for the first time in a very long time, you are seeing the efforts of staff and teachers filling classrooms. That's where the money's coming from. Does everybody understand that? Yeah, and I'm going to be very stingy with the reserve, because now we're just getting to where the numbers are going up, and without that reserve, if I go out and buy a swimming pool and a fleet of something or other, all of a sudden our reserves go upside down. When is our first interim report?
September 15th.
Okay, so be prepared for me to ask all kinds of questions about swimming pool funds and fleet funds and all those kinds of things. Because just because somebody brings them up doesn't mean they're wrong, but we need to get it out on the table so everybody knows where we're coming from. And this is so out of line, but if you're going to sit up here in December, you need to be understanding the budget, and you need to understand what's going on up here and come in here and inform. This is a great deal of work, to understand these things. But I want to talk about the programs that are making this happen. I think it all started with the Medal of Honor program, is where I think it started. And then the TOSAs were coming in with these things, and now we're seeing all these things on the website where it basically gives students an ability to access things that will help them take control of their pathway and what they need to contribute to their learning. That's my understanding of it. It's kind of like a 411 system. If I can't get a hold of my teacher right now, there's some way for me to access tutoring or something. And all these programs have come forward, and they came forward in a very difficult time where you could not sit everybody down in the classroom and say, hey, 1, 2, 3, 4, you're doing it online, you're doing all kinds of other things. And I don't mean to be critical about this, but I will tell you, in my world, I think that we were still working on getting the rollout done for the kids that were in the classrooms, the number of kids that we're used to, and getting staff to feel supported and having the materials and all this. I mean, the new lab, when we went and cut the ribbon and took the picture, that was all great, but that's where the work starts. And then a year later, you're kind of looking at it and saying, how much of this is really interesting? Do I have 10 kids run into one spot and one over here. So that there's that ongoing thing. I think we were still in the middle of that when all of a sudden we've got all these kids coming in. So my concern is on a brand. I worry about brand and what we do to maintain our brand. And so if I've got 25 kids that are being serviced by a lab, and that's the limit of the lab, where I come from, if you add 15% more kids on, you lose 15% efficiency in your base program. So you've got all these people coming in, and you're not really able to carry that out. And when you're not able to carry that out and measure it and make it different, then I can go to any school and get the same thing we're throwing out at the table. So what I'm most concerned about is, number one, is the rigor of our basic stuff that we teach, the stuff that everybody's got to teach, is solid. But at the same time, these programs need to be much more than a billboard that's going to fade out. They're really our brand, and they're what's driving what's happening with our ADA. So I'm a government employee. It took me 6 months to get a new employee. So I go into HR. I'm there all the time anyway. But this time it was for something positive. I wanted to give input. Well, they started weighing the input I'd given them on other things I was involved in the past, so I didn't get ahead very quickly. But I do know that process is debilitating and paralyzing in government organizations. So, before you come in here and start telling me what I can and cannot do, believe you me, I know what to do, and I work in a place where I have money to do what I want to do. But I don't have that power here, that ability here. So I would suggest that everybody, starting with the superintendent's office and the cabinet team, and people who are positive and know how to communicate in a way without degrading other people, come forward with some ideas, because it's time to make sure that those laboratories and these special programs that they have don't get tarnished, because that's what's bringing the kids in. These kids that are coming in from somewhere else, God forbid they get here and this is worse than where they left. That's the community input I'm worried about. So I very much appreciate y'all calling me. You're free to call me, but you know I'm not going to go tell everybody what to do. And by the time you get off the phone with me, you understand why other people don't like me either. Yeah, let's loosen up the lanes a little bit when it comes to coming up with ideas and positive solutions. I do know that no matter how many times I call him a day, I'm not going to tell him anything that's going to take care of that problem you're talking about back there. So I was wondering why you don't quit where you work and come over here. That's what I want to know.
$36,000 a year difference.
Besides that. Okay.
We got it.
No, in all seriousness, thank you for coming in here. Thank you for coming in here. Thank you for all the work you do with the parent groups and asthma and all that other stuff too. Thank you. Okay.